Yes, Mama is very correct. Let's take questions and answers because the trainer currently is a little busy. You'll be joining us very soon, but it's going to be late, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. So we can do some questions and answers from last Monday up to date, whatever we've done so far. Thank you as we keep waiting.
I'm okay. I was reading the fantastic message. I enjoyed that very much. That our deputy class governor is always posting. It's very enjoyable. She's doing a very good job. Thank you very much, Miss Solomon.
Okay. Mr. Solomon.
Miss.
Is it Miss or Mr.?
It's Miss Solomon.
Oh, Miss Solomon. Is that your picture or let's see your face? I'd like to see your face.
Sorry, I can't turn on my video now. I'm not kind of in an environment that I can turn on my video, but I can talk. Good evening.
Oh, okay. It's Mr. It's Mrs. Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, good
Thank you very
evening.
much,
Good
ma'am.
evening. Yeah. You are welcome. Okay, please, let's have your questions, please. Hello, class. We are waiting for your questions. I remember in my class, that was the second day. There was a lot of questions and we have to postpone it to the rest of the days. So please, let's have your questions as we wait for the speaker for today.
Excuse me, what do you mean, Mr. John? There is another group of 4 students? Can you explain, please, what you are writing? Thank you.
Thursday now waiting.
Mr. Stanley, please mute yourself for us.
Miss Leticia, please go ahead.
All right, good evening. Please, my question is, when do you issue stop work authority? And if what they are doing, you are not part of the job, is it advisable for you to issue stop work authority when you are not part of the job? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. You don't need to be part of the job before you can issue stop work authority. Once you observe that whatever activity they are undertaking is not safe, in your opinion, you think it's not safe, you have the right to stop the work, engage them, let them explain to you for you to be sure that what they are doing is okay before they can continue to work. But if once they explain and you think it's still not safe, you can engage them in a further conversation to make sure that whatever they are doing is going to be safe before you allow them to do it. Other than that, the authority must be informed that the work these people are doing is not good at the moment and they need to take the necessary safety precautions before they start.
All right, thank you so much.
Welcome. Mr. Amos.
All right, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
So
evening to you, Mr. Amos.
Yeah, when we're talking about safety and risk management, specifically safety, we're told that safety is all about framework. How, as in more or less, your initiative, taking the right decision. So after the class, I think the following morning, I had a scenario where a truck driver, who convey some crates of minerals, that it should be up to 40 crates of minerals on a truck, driving on a bad road anyway. But at the time, he was trying to dodge a smooth side that there was water, and he put the two tires, the passenger's side, the two tires on a small portion of the road that was a bit higher. So at that particular time, the vehicle was not balanced. The other side was higher than the driver's side, and at that moment, the pressure of the crates now went to the driver's side, and the weight now pulled the lock, and about 15 crates of mineral fell down immediately, and he lost over 9 crates of mineral. So I was trying to examine the situation. Number one, does it mean that the driver did not check, or the driver did not check if the lock is firm enough to withstand any pressure? Or does it mean that it was as a result of his initiative, avoiding the side that was smooth, the same level? Is it as a result of the fact that he opted to put the one tire on the other side that was a bit higher, that could make him experience that damage? Or does it mean that they did not consider the fact that maybe the vehicle is too small to carry that amount of crates of mineral? So I was trying to examine who the fault, the responsibility should be pushed to, because sometimes when it comes to work, employee and employers, sometimes when issues arises, we will now look at, people want to look at who is the cause of this issue, what is the cost of this issue, whose responsibility is it? And the young man, what he did was he came down, he removed his phone, and he videoed the environment, and possibly maybe an evidence to go and show the management that maybe it was not his fault. But to me, when I examined this the situation, I just felt that it was as a result of his initiative, avoiding the smooth, the level part of the road that he would have just, drove past, though there were water, trying to drive towards the right side, but that dry side, there were some hills, and the vehicle was not balanced as at that time. And because one side of the vehicle was higher than, the crate of the minerals now pulled and put pressure on the truck, and the lock, pulled down, and he had those damages. So I just want a clarity to know if my judgment for that scenario was right. If it was not right, at least I need to be educated more in case of a situation that resemble such incident that took place that day, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amos, for that observation. It's a very good observation. But if I'm to be the transport manager of that particular driver, in the first place, I'll fire him. Mom else will disagree with me because he has the aspect of coaching. But you know, for the purpose of safety, I'll fire him in the first place. Why am I saying that? The law says that every item you carry on a car, not in a car, on a car, must be secured. That is why human beings, when we sit in the car, we put on seatbelt to secure ourselves from falling. You understand? So every load on a car must be secured. That is one. Two, crate, okay? Under the crate, it has been designed in such a way that it can merge, it can couple each other. Because of that, drivers who normally carried crate refuses to lash. The word is lash. Lashing means you are securing with belt cargo. So drivers refuses to lash crates when they carry crates because of the design of the bottom of the crate. Just a second. Albert, Eugene, the empty crate for home and here. I've requested for a crate just to show you what I'm talking about. The design of the crate is such that it makes it very easy to fix on one each other, to one way or the other, to secure or to prevent slip. I think that is the word, to prevent slip on each other, because of the material that was used. It's a slippery material, so that when you put on the other person, it will not slip. So there is this protruding edges at the bottom of the crate. Because of that, drivers are using that as an advantage, refusing to strap or lash when they carry crate. That causes the, how do you call it, the falling of the amount of, yes. So have you seen the design? So you can see that there is an overlap here.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes.
overlap sits on top, and it helps them to carry a lot of crates without slip. So these overlaps here are not lockers to be carried on track without lashing. So the question is no, or the answer is no. That is why I'm saying that as a safety consultant, in the first place, I'll fire the driver for not lashing the cargo. Two, in defensive driving, you don't swerve pothole, but you slow down and drive in the pothole. In that sense, that driver has no right to try to swerve the pothole to go and climb a stone that will unbalance the cargo, and to allow some crates of mineral or whatever it is to pour, causing loss to the company. So that is it. By the law, all cargos must be lashed. Even if you are carrying a pen, that pen must be lashed. Also, a driver must not swerve a pothole. A driver must slow down and drive through the pothole. So that is the answer. I know Ma'am else will talk about firing the person, but that is the truth. Thank you.
No, Ali, allow me to protest against it. I don't think we should fire the person because an accident usually isn't caused by only one cause. It is not only because the driver didn't tie the crates or something. It's also the fact that he has a responsible. He has somebody above him, and managers get paid for taking the responsibility of their workers. So that responsible, that team leader or manager should make sure that person is informed. He hired an uninformed person who doesn't know anything about how to do that. And this is deep knowledge. I actually just posted, I don't know if I can get it on my screen. I just posted something on our Telegram group. I'm sorry, I'm still busy in the Telegram group. Are we seeing this? Yes. So this just shows how elaborate this knowledge is. So this was just to show you how complex this matter actually is. So you can go very far in it. So I think it's not only the person that drives, it's not only the person that loads the truck, it's the person, well, I will leave that to the end. It's the person that didn't teach them, that didn't give them training, that didn't hire the person who has the knowledge to load, or at least to instruct, how do you call that, a foreman or somebody like a team leader saying you have to do this, you have to do that, and make the checks afterwards. There was no person that checked the thing afterwards. There was no checklist, probably because he didn't follow it. Probably there was no checklist. Make sure you tie them, make sure they're all stacked in a good way, and so on. And then you have the potholes. Okay, that is another factor that caused the accident. So that means that, well, the road is also at fault. We are not insurance brokers. We are not looking for only one culprit who should pay everything. We're not looking for the one who gets fired. We are looking for a solution. We are looking to prevent it in the future. It happened. It are a few crates. It's not so bad. I don't know how the potholes in Ghana are, but Mr. Richmond, but even in Belgium, you don't even have to be in Nigeria for that. If you have a pothole, it can be very deep, and you can drive your tire. Your tire can just be smashed because your car is falling into the pothole. So I think still, I don't know. To my knowledge, a tire is still more expensive than a few crates of drinks. So tires are very expensive if you have to replace them.
Yes,
So,
Mammers.
I would like to, I'm sorry.
Mammers.
Yes.
You know, in Africa, I know what is happening in Ghana. The same thing is happening in Nigeria because we are twins. You understand? Yeah. So
there are many
the
differences.
same. I know how the drivers load and carry the load. Let's say the crates on our road. That is why I'm explaining it in that context.
Yeah, but
yeah, because I know what he's talking about very well.
I understand
now,
but that is caused by not knowing. That is caused by not having the knowledge. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm there. The lecturer is having issue loading, so I'm just trying to send the link again to him. Yeah, so the case here is, like you said, we have administrative issues where supervisors or managers or foremen has to see to the proper loading of the cargo, and also making sure the cargo is lashed before they leave the bay. Now, with my 21 experience with the transport or logistics companies, most of these transport logistics companies does not take the time to train their drivers. Those who train the drivers also does not take the time to do monitoring and supervision to make sure that the right thing is done at the point of loading. The video you just showed, yes, it is true, but with the aspect of crate loading, it doesn't come in. It doesn't come in at all. Now, when you talk of the managerial aspect, all blame will be put on the driver, because they will tell you that you, the driver, must know that the how do you call it, the protruding edges at under the crate are not lockers, but they are anti-slip material. So they expect you, the driver, to lash or lock the crates on the track. So once you refuse to do that and you have caused mess, either they will subcharge you per the whatever cost it is, then maintain you, or they will fire you for carelessness, causing loss to the company. So in Africa, this is what is going on. That is why we are doing this training, so that everybody will know what it entails. Risk assessment, do the needful, know what is called control measures. Like you said, the driver, the road is part, but you, the driver, doing your risk assessment, knowing that the load is not lashed. If you unbalance the load, some of the cargo will fall. Then it tells you that slow down and pass through whatever it is carefully, so that once the load is not lashed, it will be still stable after you go through that rough edges without causing damage to the cargo that you have carried. That is control measure. So that is it.
Yes, but the question
Our
was
lecturer is on. Our lecturer is on now.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's just get take 3 minutes out of his time. By 6:30, we give him the platform. Just 3 minutes. So, Mr. Amos, your hand should be down. Mr. Dakuru.
Yes, sirs.
Mr. Dakuru.
Write your question in the chat, so we can take note of it.
Mr. Dakuru, quickly, let's hear you so we can continue.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Good evening.
Yeah, loud and clear, please.
Okay. I don't know if I could contribute to the answer of this question. Am I allowed?
Yes, 2 minutes or 1 minute.
Okay,
1 minute.
Okay, I think for this particular question, it all boils down to the policy of the organization where these products or these goods are coming out from. If proper safety policies are being put in place, okay, like Madam Els mentioned, a checklist before loading of any goods inside a truck that is supposed to go for supply, there should be a checklist that is being manned. Okay, everything should be placed in order, everything should be strapped. Now, even after that checklist is completely checked, when the truck is leaving the premises of the organization, the security has a duty to check and ensure that everything is also in place before it leaves the premises of the organization. Through this policy now, whoever is driving will be aware of, okay, so this is a policy. If I go against it, there'll be repercussions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dakuru, for that input. Very, very correct. Like I said, we have 3 different kinds of companies in Africa. I know of Africa. So that is what I'll say. We have those who are following the rules and regulations 100%. We have those who know it and they choose to follow at any time they want. And we have those who are not aware at all. So once we are learning here, let us educate them as and when we get the opportunity. Very good. So on this note, I'll leave the platform to our Honorable Governor, Mrs. Solomon Olona, to welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Evans. Governor, over to you, please.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Evans. Is he here now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we welcome you today.
Good evening.
For lecture and presentation you're about to do. We hope to get the best out of it as we listen at it, and hope to acquire knowledge and all the best from what you present today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Please, can you share your slide from your end for me?
Okay, I should share it here.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Okay, don't worry, you can start talking. I'll open it right now and share.
Okay, so from what I've been given, I'm doing course 105. That is guidelines on HSE implementation. I'm told the 103 has already been handled in the early days, so I won't talk much on that. But just want to do some linkage of that with the 105 that I'm going to talk about. It's important that we prioritize the protection of health and safety. Very important. The workers we bring to our facility to use their energy, use their experience and strength to produce goods and services, so we can sell it in exchange of profit. We protect these people so that they can be guaranteed the quality of life as they carry out their service or activity for us. And one of the tools that we can use to ensure this is achieved is developing the health and safety management system, which I'm sure it has been talked extensively in the initial the course 103 when it was presented some days back. So I'm going to pick the aspect of due. In the 103 that we were told that as part of the health and safety management system must have a policy, and out of policy must organize resources to ensure the policy is achieved. You must also plan and implement. You must evaluate where you set up a monitoring system, review, measurement, investigation system. Then you must carry out audit to ensure the effectiveness of what you are put in place. Then you finally put in action for improvement for any gaps that you identify. So what I'm going to talk about in 105 focuses on how we can plan and implement. And one of the tools that can help us to do a proper planning and implementation of our health and safety management system is what we call the risk assessment. Risk assessment is a very, very important tool. So this, if you are going to look at how we are going to carry out this very important tool called risk assessment, that will ensure we properly have a very good management system in place to protect the health and safety, the environment, the property, and of course the company's reputation. Then out of that, we look at what we call safe system of work, how we can set up safe system of work to ensure that we are able to implement the management system. We also look at what we call monitoring, inspection, and auditing of this risk assessment. Once we do the risk assessment, we must have a system of monitoring, a system to inspect and carry out audit to ensure the adequacy and suitability of this risk assessment so that it can achieve its intended purpose. We look at all some of the strategies that we can add. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. So I will go straight to the risk assessment. What is it about? What is risk assessment? As we recognize that it's a very important tool that will ensure that we properly implement the management system to protect the health and safety of workers, to protect the environment, and protect the assets and the reputation of the company. This tool, what is it? It's one of the most important activities in the health and safety management system. It takes a significant contribution towards the reduction of workplace accident and ill health. The process varies from a very visual assessment of a simple procedure such as hammering a nail into a piece of wood to a thorough written assessment of a large workplace operation. Many managers and staff might be involved in carrying out risk assessment, but they may not know. Supervisors and safety representatives are often in the best position to carry out this risk assessment. So what we are talking about is a very, very important tool, and that it starts first from identifying the various activity that the company performs. Then out of this various activity, look at the likelihood of what we call the hazard occurring, and they put in measures in place to be sure that this likelihood of the hazard occurring are either eliminated or minimized. So what it means is that when we are performing various work activities in the workplace, in the organization, this activity that we are performing, they are what we call hazard likely to occur. These hazards are simply anything that has a potential to cause injury to a person. This hazard is anything that has the potential to cause illness to a person. This hazard is anything that has the potential to cause death to a person. This hazard is anything that has the potential to cause damage to property, damage to the environment, and lastly, damage to company reputation. These hazards are directly connected to the work activity that we do. These hazards can be in various forms. They can be what you call physical, they can be what you call biological, they can what you call chemical, they can what you call economical, and the last but not the least is psychosocial or psychological. In fact, today I was reading the BBC headline, and I was told that a man in US went to New York, a particular mall, building office complex, and he started shooting. He had a gun with him, started shooting, and he killed 4 people. The 5th person is in critical condition, receiving. And according to police, they said they have information that he has some mental issue, and unfortunately, this issue has exacerbated, got worse, and this man has acted. This shows the effect of what we call psychological hazard, which is one of the hazards we must control at the workplace, and this brings to the importance of mental well-being. So these are the various forms that this hazard can take, and they are directly connected to the work activities such as lifting, such as working at height, such as using chemicals, and various work activities that we do every day. Once we do these activities, hazards are indirectly inherent in them. So it's important that we must look at the likelihood of this hazard occurring from these activities. And if the likelihood is high, we look at also the severity in case these hazards occur. in terms of its impact on human beings, in terms of its impact on the environment, in terms of its impact on the property of the company. Then once we do these two, the likelihood and the severity, and we realize that it is high, then we must do something to make sure this hazard do not occur. And this brings us to what we call the risk assessment. And this activity cannot be done alone. Health and safety professionals should not be champions in taking initiative and doing this risk assessment alone. It's important they must consult all persons, including supervisors, safety reps, and all persons in the organization to make sure that their input is received or is collected. Once we do that, we can have a very detailed and suitable risk assessment that can achieve the intended purpose. So that's why some of the keywords we have here, you can see competent person is a person with appropriate qualification, knowledge, and experience. It's something that is key that people must have this competency to carry out research. You believe that by going through this training, you will have the necessary skills and information that can help you to champion this very important activity at the workplace. Can we go to the next slide? Responsibility for risk assessment. It's important that responsibility for carrying out risk assessment lies with employers, but managers and supervisors usually have a vital role to play. I always say that the employer has the ultimate responsibility to carry out risk assessment. Most of the regulations which actually have gone a step further. Can you go back, please?
Leave it.
One. Can you go back one? No, the page before. I'm on page 5. Yes. So I want to make emphasis here before we go to the next page. So the responsibility risk assessment is lies with employers. They have contracted employees. They have a contract with the employee to come and work on their premises, the facility to produce goods and services. But you and I know that employers, most of them are not physically maybe on the premises. So that's why they have also sublet or employ managers and supervisors who have the requisite knowledge and experience to carry out this. So even though they are supposed to do it, but actually they may not have the capacity and capability. That's why it says that managers and supervisors must have a role to play to ensure that this is achieved. That does not mean that the employer can be exonerated in case something fails. There's a popular statement that goes like, you can delegate responsibility, but you can never delegate accountability. When it comes to accountability, you can delegate responsibility for people to do for you, but when it comes to still be the person to be held accountable. So this is just to let employers know that they still have some duty of care to ensure that the implemented action is achieving its intended outcome. Let's go to the next slide. The next. So now let's see the steps involved in carrying out this risk assessment. As we've seen how important it is, these are the steps. You don't rush and do risk assessment without following a steps. And this is the step. First, you must identify the hazard. And that is a very key step. If you are going to get the risk assessment on a good note, if you are going to be assured that risk assessment is adequate, sufficient, suitable for the activity that you do, so that it can achieve the objective of eliminating or minimizing the likelihood of the hazard. Okay, start with the identification of the hazard. And I already talk about what a hazard is. I've looked at the various categories of hazard. So we must carry out various activities that will help us to be able to get hazard present associated with our work activity. There are so many ways we can carry out hazard at the workplace that can help us to achieve. One of them is by doing what we call brainstorming. We can carry out hazard identification by brainstorming. where before the activity we call all experts to come on board to judge to find out what are the likelihood of the hazard occurring from this activity. And for me, you'll be amazed when you bring the technical people to come on board. They'll be able to tell you a lot of the things. That is why before any critical activity or is hazard identification and risk assessment, where we must bring all the experts on board, then they will explain in the room, explain the work activity they're going to do, various steps. Then the HSE person, in consultation with the technical people, will now look at each step. What are the hazards in the various forms that I've talked about? So that is very, very important. Then once you have identified the hazard, then you are making a headway. But you must go to the second step to look at the likelihood of this hazard occurring. But before I go there, let me give you other ways that we can identify hazard at the workplace that can help us to achieve the intended outcome that we all want the risk assessment to achieve. So the hazards can be in so many forms that we can identify the hazard. Besides the brainstorming, we can also have activity such as review of previous incident, carry out site visits, carry out inspections, carry out audits. These are all other forms of ways we can identify the hazard. We can also identify hazard through reading information that have been provided on the products, for example, the safety manual, the safety data sheet, the manufacturer's manual that are provided on the equipment. Once you read this information, you can get a lot of information from it that can help you to identify the hazard. Then once you do that, we can also have observations when people, the workers, report observation. You can do some trend analysis to look at which areas are observations being reported most or are normally being reported most, and based on that you can get some information to know the kind of hazard that are present at the workplace or associated work activity. Then once you are done with that, you go to the second step of looking at the likelihood of somebody being harmed and how. Here, somebody being harmed is in three forms. It can be a person, it can be the equipment, it can be the environment. You look at the likelihood of this hazard that you have identified through these various activities are likely to occur. Then the likely to occur in terms of the high, medium, low, then the harm, the severity. That is whether the harm to people, whether it can be first aid case, whether it can be medical treatment case, whether it can be fatality. Then in terms of environment, its impact on environment, in terms of pollution, releasing pollutants into the environment, how will be the quantity? Is it in the meter cube, for instance? Is it going to be 10,000, 5,000? You look at the harm in terms of environment. Then the asset, in terms of the impact of the asset. For instance, if the hazard occurs, the likelihood of the harm to the asset can result in maybe production hours, or the assets the cost of repairing the assets can be maybe 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira or 2,000 naira. You look at all this very, very key. Then once you do the likelihood in terms of the likelihood, high, medium, or low, and the severity in terms of people, environment, and the equipment, and you establish that it is high or the result is high, then you must do something about it. That is it. Now, after determining the likelihood, you go to the next step, what you call evaluate the risks by looking at the existing measures and deciding whether more controls are in place. Maybe before the activity is done or before you carry out the risk assessment, there may already be certain things that the company is doing as a way of addressing the hazard or addressing the likelihood of the hazard occurring and its impact. So don't rush and come out with mitigation measures that will be from you without looking at what is already on the ground. In health and safety management system, we don't rush and bring out our management system without looking at what is on the baseline. To find out after you have done the second step, look at what is already in place by the company. Then you add on. The reason why it's important you look at what is already in place in the company is that it has been tried and tested. It was developed by people who are working. And once they see that their ideas or their mitigation measures are being adopted, it will serve as an incentive for them to continue to be involved in the implementation of your additional control you are going to bring on board. So let's take note and make sure that we are looking at the existing measures. Then now you come to what we call additional control. Whatever they have may not be sufficient, may be lacking certain things. So you come out of additional control. Now, in the controls, we have an hierarchy that we must follow. The hierarchy of the control measures for the risks must follow a pattern. First of all, elimination. If we can do the work by first eliminating, that is not doing the work at all, then that can be a very good thing for us. But you and I know that stopping the work is not easy for people. The option of elimination may not be feasible at all times. But if it's something that we can do, we must make sure we do. So elimination means physically removing the hazard associated with the work activity. And some of the ways that you can physically remove the hazard is not doing the work. Then if that option is not there, and which is the most effective measure is not there, you go to what you call substitution. Substitution means what? Replace the hazard. So that thing, that activity, or that material, or that equipment that you are using that will produce the hazard, we say replace, substitute it. So if you are using material A, and the material A has some substance or chemical hazard associated with it, when you are using it for the activity, then you say that substitute it by using material B that doesn't have those chemical properties. That is what we are talking about. Then, if that is not possible, you go to what you call engineering. Engineering means what? Put a system in place so that people can be prevented from coming in contact with the hazard, even when they accidentally come in contact or accidentally engage in activity that can expose the hazard. So, for instance, if there's a hazard of opening on the pavement in the public road, along the public road, then the general control can be to put a hard barricade around the opening, so that in case somebody even forgets that there's a hole there and he come in contact with the opening, the barrier will prevent the person from putting the leg inside the hole. This elimination, substitution, engineering are the most effective controls when it comes to risk assessment. It's the most effective. However, in implementing or adopting this hierarchy of control, which is eliminating, substitution, and engineering, it comes with a cost. It comes with a lot of time. It comes with a lot of effort being put in place. So in determining the control, you must always consider the time, the effort, and the money involved in implementing. These three controls that I said, usually a lot of companies don't adopt it because of these three factors. Time it takes to implement the controls, the effort it takes to implement the control, and the money involved in implementing the control. However, they are the most effective. We can't say that because these three effective measures we cannot adopt. We could let the people go and work without putting some form of controls in place. So the hierarchy has provided another option which is called administrative control. Administrative control talks about what? Putting a safe system of work in place, which will be in the form of documentation, for instance, providing permit, job safety analysis, trainings, other communication signs. These are safe system of work. So anybody who's going to do the activity, not just on its own stand up and go and do the activity, we must adopt an administrative control with obtain a permit before you do the work, receive training before you do the work, make sure the person has received the hazard communication sign, job rotation, whatever that you are going to do based on the activity and the hazard, come out with some administrative control to manage or minimize the impact. In fact, you can see that administrative control is not the most effective. However, it is and most companies adopt this administrative control in their performance of the activity. A lot of companies, when they are doing their work, the hierarchy of control for the works is administrative control. However, it is not the most effective. Maybe when you consider in terms of time, money, and effort compared to engineering, certification, and regulation, that one doesn't involve a lot of time, money, and effort in implementing. So the worry here is that it is not the most effective. However, it is the most commonest. So that means if you don't do it and do it very well, you just bring a permit and you just sign off as a supervisor without looking at the control measures put in place, the hazard put in place, making sure your team members are briefed. If you do training, you don't do evaluation of effectiveness of the training. You don't make sure you have a training needs where each activity that you do, the kind of training that is needed, you clearly specify. Make sure competent training facilities provide the training, make sure they do evaluation, and make sure the trainees have understood the information that was presented. And you just do training and just do training for training's sake. That will mean that this administrative control of training is not going to achieve the intended purpose. So a lot of the control measures we are familiar being implemented at the workplace, most of them are from administrative control. So we must make sure as health and safety professionals, as managers, as supervisors, whatever that has been put in place as part of administrative control, we do it and do it very well, so that at the end of the day, the benefits in implementing this control at least can be achieved. Then the last but not the least is PPE. PPE means that go and do the work. As a company, we don't have. Daddy, you are coming here today. As a company, we don't have any control to eliminate or minimize the hazard from occurring associated with work activity. So we are saying that go and do the work. We know that there are hazards likely to occur. We know that there's hazard when it occurs, the impact to human being, impact to the environment, impact to equipment will be high. But we are saying that go and do the work. We will provide you PPE so that in case the hazard occurs, it will minimize the severity of you. The likelihood is that we know that the likelihood of the hazard occurring is high. But we are saying that we want to minimize the impact. We want to minimize the impact of the hazard on you. And that is PPE. So anybody who is deceived, oh, I have PPE, so I can go and do a work, that person is joking. PPE means the hazard, the likelihood of the hazard is still there. PPE means the severity is still there. The only thing PPE will do is that it will minimize the impact in case it occurs. So if it's going to be a cut that can result in medical treatment kits, a cut on your finger that can result in you going to the hospital and being restricted from work, or being restricted from coming to work, or staying away from work, then the hand gloves that you are going to wear will minimize the impact of the cut from medical treatment case to first aid case. That is what PPE will do. So today we don't talk about PPE, we talk about appropriate PPE. Today we don't talk about PPE, we talk about being disciplined. So discipline and having the appropriate PPE should at least be enforced. That can help us to achieve at least some benefit of the control of PPE in terms of risk assessment. Then, after you have done that, you must record your findings, the result of your outcome. When you put all the existing measures, additional measures, what were the outcome? That activity, was this still high? That activity, was this still low? Was the hazard associated with that activity, was it reduced to high? Was it reduced to low? Was it medium? Record the findings. And sometimes the reason why we must record it is that it's for legal purposes. A lot of the regulations in countries require that risk assessment must be documented. In case an accident happens, it can be the basis of investigation by the regulatory body to find out whether the risk assessment that was prepared for the company's activity was adequate or sufficient If you don't record your findings from the risk assessment, on what basis were you going to provide to the regulator that you did everything reasonably practicable? That's why you must record your findings for risk assessment. And the findings mean you must make sure there's a date there. Whoever did the drafted the risk assessment, whoever reviewed the risk assessment, all these features must be on the risk assessment, so that as and when there's an update, you can do that. Tomorrow, you can show it to the regulators that you have did everything without practical. Otherwise, if an accident happens, you, the employer, will be guilty of the law, because the basic thing that you needed to do before the work started, before the worker started work, was risk assessment. He didn't do it. You must record and also inform the workers. Sometimes inform the workers can be through so many ways. One of them through induction. As part of your induction slide, you must make sure key information, your risk assessment, is part of the induction slide. As part of the way of informing the workers, it can be through periodic awareness training, internal trainings that you can organize. Recently, I was part of a team that conducted hazard identification risk assessment for the workers. And I was so amazed that this covered everybody, both on the field and those in the offices. Somebody said, somebody in the office, what kind of risk is there? Yeah, there are office risks there. They must be aware. And we are going to issue a certificate for them for participating. And at the end of the day, the employer can show to regulators that I informed my workers about the hazard and the control that I put in place. So please, whatever that we are doing in health and safety in terms of documentation, it will ensure that we cover ourselves in case there's a failure. That is it. Then you must review the risk assessment and update if necessary. Whenever there's an accident, whenever there's any management of change, be it technical, be it operational, we must go back to our risk assessment and review the results of our outcome. Every accident, both internal and external, go back to your risk assessment and review it. If there are some lessons learned from the accident, you can take it back into the source document, risk assessment, and update it. If there's any change to your operational activities, to your technical activities, go back to risk assessment and review it. This is when you can make it happen. One of the things I want to share briefly on the inform the workers is that you can also take an extract of your risk assessment and print and post advantage places at the workplace. So if, for instance, your workplace, there's a dedicated workshop for maintenance activities, you print a copy of risk assessment for maintenance activity after you have informed the workers through induction, through periodic awareness. Print a copy and post there, and let them know that is the periodical. They must visit it on the wall and get information to remind them of the hazard associated with the activity and the controls. Today, with the advent of technology, you can use QR code, generate a QR code for risk assessment for each work activity. Then all that the worker needs, just scan it, then can have access to it on the phone and read what is there. Make it as simple as possible so that the ordinary worker, who may not be intellectually high, can have access and read it to understand. So let's see some general advice for carrying out assessment. Walk around the workplace and observe all the work activity before starting the work. The risk assessment. Look at simple activities first. Involve employees as well as management. Get advice, particularly if you or the organization do not have the technical knowledge of the risk assessment. Consider interruption to work as well as activities, because interruption frequently lead to accident. Ignore trivial hazards and insignificant levels of risk. Here is key. You may ignore trivial hazards, but if the regulation in your country says that you must do it, then even though it is trivial or insignificant, you must still put something in place for it. Otherwise, if that thing results in an accident, you'll be guilty of the law. Next slide. So at this juncture, it just explains each of the steps that I've talked about. Identify the workplace hazard, then establish who might be harmed and how, and assess the risks and decide whether further controls are needed. Then The next slide, please. So record the findings, inform the workers of the controls to be introduced, and implement them. So I've already done justice to it. Then step 5, okay, so review the risk assessment. So let's go to who can do the risk assessment. Yes. So if your employer or manager delegate the risk assessment to you, it may be possible to carry it out without special treat if you follow the 5 steps that we have already outlined about. General guidance is provided on the Health and Safety Executive's website, which include examples of risk assessment in many types of small business. If you are working for a small firm with few hazards, then the process is relatively straightforward. If outside consultants are contracted, it is also wise for someone who knows the business operation time. In fact, here I will have to give a caution to it. If outside consultants are contracted, it is always wise for someone who knows the business operation intimately to be involved. If you are going to do risk assessment and for one or two reasons you want to outsource to a consultant to come and do it, please, somebody who is familiar with the business operation must work closely with this person. Most of the time, the consultant may not have the technical information to know the production process steps. So it may put something on paper, but when you do proper assessment, you see that it may not be adequate and suitable to your operational activity. I have had an incident like that. Prior to my ISO 14001 audit some years ago, I needed to do environmental risk assessment, and I was so busy with putting certain things in place to fulfill the requirement of the standard. So I contacted somebody to come and do the environmental risk assessment, and he was highly recommended. So I trusted him. He came to my facility. I took him around, and he said, "Okay, I'll go and do it and come." He did it. I didn't have enough time to review it, and on the day of the audit, the auditor wanted to check whether whatever had been put in the document was suitable and adequate. He went to the site. Okay, when you're doing welding activity, what are the control measures? What are the hazard control measures? He picked all of them, wrote it on paper. He came and said, "Open your risk assessment on welding activity. Let's see." Then we saw that we missed it. Some of the mitigation measures that have been put in the environmental risk assessment are not actually being done on the field. So that is the risk in engaging consultant. But they come with a lot of experience. They can help you a lot. But please don't leave them to do the work alone. Let's see the legally required specific risk assessment. Every company should carry out general risk assessment, but you may also need to take separate specific risk assessment, such as for specific sites, for example, where staff work at different locations every day, or for matters such as fire, manual handling, and controls of hazardous substances. The legislation that requires a specific risk assessment gives guidance on what to expect. Some regulations also specify the length of time that the records of risk assessment have to be kept. Here are some examples of specific assessment required by legislation. If you are going to use asbestos, you may have to have a specific risk assessment records for this. If you're going to have display screen equipment that the employees will use, you may also have to have hazardous substances, the use of lead. So these are various activities that the regulation may require. It differs from each country. So you, as an health and safety professional, you must be familiar with your local regulation to know what kind of specific activities that the regulation require a risk assessment to be done. So let's take note of that. So let's see some examples of risk assessment. For instance, somebody using a ladder in a shop. So the activity is used retrieving goods from a height, changing light units, and erecting display materials. What are the hazards involved in this activity? The staff member can fall. The materials. Oh, I'll skip you. So I'm on page 11. Page 11. Yes. the ladders in the shop. So in doing this activity, using ladder in the shop, what are the hazards? Staff members can fall, materials can fall and hit somebody who may be in line of fire. Someone can bump into or trip over the foot of the ladder. These are the livelihood. Who is at risk? The employees who find themselves in this place that is being used, members of the public, and the visitors. So they can be exposed to it. Then what kind of controls can be put in place? I'm on page 11. Page 11 still. I'm on page 11 still. Please, you're not on page 11. Yes. So in this activity and the hazard, who is at risk? Employees, members of the public, and visitors. What kind of controls can be put in place? In terms of retrieving goods from height, existing control that the company already has. Ladders are provided with security hooks to stabilize the top of the ladders against a storage rack. Additional control that can be put in place: set up a ladder register and ensure that the shift supervisor inspect the ladders every week and record the findings. So this is an additional or proposed control. Another control is that changing light unit. Existing control is step ladder have stabilizers and wheel chocks used for this activity. No guardrails are provided on the step ladder. Proposed control is the area should be out of bounds, and a member of staff should warn employees and members of the public about the operation. You should set up a ladder register, and new step ladders with adequate guardrails must be provided. So as you go ahead, you can see the various activities and what kind of controls are put in place. Then very important, you must have retain records of the risk assessment register and keep together with organizing health and safety policy. Then review every 12 months. The review is independent. Even though it is every 12 months, please take note. Once an accident happens, even when the 12 months is not due, it's an opportunity to review your risk assessment for that particular activity and incorporate the lessons learned from it. So even though it's 12 months, even though your document control procedure can give a frequency of every 5 years or every 1 year, whatever it is, please, once certain things must immediately call for review of risk assessment, even when the frequency is not due. When incident happen or accident happen, when there's a massive change in your operational activities or technical activities, when there has been some outcome of a drill that the result was not very good, go back to risk assessment and incorporate the lessons learned from it. This, and if the regulation requires a new regulation in your country that is asking certain things to be done, you didn't know this, or this was not in place when you were developing a risk assessment some months ago, you must go back to your risk assessment and review the risk assessment to reflect this new regulation from your country. So these are certain situations. But if any of this has not happened, then every 12 months, you must do a review of it. So let's go to the next slide. Let's see the safe system of work 13. Safe system of work. A safe system of work. Remember, safe system of work is directly connected to administrative control that I mentioned. Elimination, substitution engineering are the most effective controls for managing the risks associated with work activity. However, because of time, because of money, and because of effort involved in implementing these controls, maybe we may not be in position to implement, so we have to adopt what we call administrative control and PP. And the typical example of administrative control is the safe system of work that we're going to talk about now. A safe system of work is a set of procedures that help staff to carry out their tasks safely. It is the main tool for implementing a safe working practice. The procedures include information about the hazard involved in a work activity or work environment, together with the safety procedures that must be followed. Managers, supervisors, and safety reps are likely to participate in drawing up a safe system of work. Supervisors and safety representatives are most likely to be involved in explaining the instruction to all staff involved in a particular activity. So one of the examples of safety for work is having the standard operating procedure, the SOPs, for associated with your activity. So every activity that you do, the company must have an SOP that provide the guidelines that must be followed to carry out the work in a safe manner. But the challenge here is that most of these procedures are bulky, 20 pages, 30 pages, 15 pages. The worker on the field, he doesn't have time to read these things. So what you have to do is that you must have a way of simplifying these procedures into what you call work instructions, so that it can be one-page information that the worker can know and follow. Again, as a way of communicating the SOP, you must also print a copy of this work instruction and make it available at various work areas, so that at the end of the day, the workers, after you have educated them, they can also have it always at the work area to remind them of the steps involved in doing their work activity safely. Let's see some steps involved in developing a safe system of work. A system of work should be based upon a systematic examination of a task involving a risk assessment of the equipment to be used, processes involved, environment where the work will be carried out, and people who will carry out the task. This should be carried out by a competent person with a sound knowledge of the task and usually hands-on experience of what is involved. It helps to take into account the experience and comment of several staff members who already do the work. Safety representatives should also be consulted for their views. Let's see the stages of development. The first step in preparing a safe system of work for a particular activity is to conduct a thorough risk assessment to determine the nature of the hazard, who is at risk, whether the hazard could be eliminated by using other work procedures or equipment, and what controls will be appropriate to deal with the residual level of risk. So this safe system of work, as I said, is part of the administrative control, and one of the first steps is what? Having a risk assessment to determine. So this risk assessment, which is the theme for this model, is an example of an administrative control. This risk assessment that we are going through there is an example of an administrative control. So see where it is. Administrative control is not the most effective, but at least it is better than PP. So that means we must do it, do this assessment, do it and do it very well. Preparing the document. Once this has been done, the safe system of work should be documented. It is likely to include information about who is authorized to do the particular work.
I know this woman like you. I get for my car. I get for my...
Detailed information about the hazard and the associated risks. It must also include specific information about the hazard and their associated risks in a particular working environment. It must also include precaution to be taken before starting the task. It must also include details about any collective protective measures. It must also include instruction about any PPE that might be worn while working. It must also include clear instruction about how to carry out the task. It must also include specific information about minimizing the risks of the task. It must also include instruction about ensuring that the work area is left safe for others, guidelines for correct waste disposal, and finally, procedures for emergency. So these are the documents that we will need to be able to prepare a safe system of work. A typical example is risk assessment. Let's see some examples of who might be included. Authorization. We are saying that you must make sure that people who are authorized, who have the technical knowledge, who have the technical expertise, must be involved in their authorization. Hazard associated with equipment, machine, technique, and process. For example, hazardous chemicals, radiation, biological materials, hazard associated with the environment where the task is to be undertaken, precaution before starting the work. These are some examples of what might be included in this very important document called risk assessment. Let's go to the next page, page 16. So this document that we are talking about, page 16, you must also review the document. When you are drafting the document, or when the document is complete, the safe system of work requires that you should review it with a supervisor and manager, safety rep, and sign and date on it. And now, after, we must also implement the safe system of work. Safe system of work must be communicated to staff. This is often the responsibility of the supervisor. Very, very key. Safety officers, safety practitioners, don't be champion, don't be jack of all trades. You use your technical expertise together with the supervisor to come out with risk assessment. But it's the supervisor that and the manager that must take the lead in what? Ensuring that their team members are aware. Very, very important. So ideally, the system should be explained face to face, perhaps with a walkthrough if appropriate. This may form a part of induction, job-specific and refresher training. In some occupations where staff tasks are a different site each day, the advisor may need to explain the safe system of work every day for the particular site and task, and this may be known as the two-month talk or job briefing. Then the written copy of the system should also be readily available for reference. In some workplaces, a notice of the safe system of work could be displayed next to a piece of machinery. So when they are using equipment and you have an SOP or work instruction, you must make it available so that the operator can make reference to whenever he forgets about some steps involved in doing operating equipment safely. These are very, very key. Then liaise with other workers where there are more than one employer on a site or in a building. The supervisor should ensure that other contractors and employees are clear about what needs to be happen to ensure the work is safe. So you must liaise with others if it's a legal requirement. Then keeping the system effective. No system is effective unless it is followed. So manager, supervisor must ensure that staff works in a safe way that conforms to the appropriate safe system of work. And from time to time, the system should review as a matter of importance and adjusted if necessary. I already talked about all the conditions under which we must review the safe system of work. Then we go to the next page. Let's see the types. Page 17. The types of safe system of work that we can have. Page 17. This safe system of work, some of the examples or types are permit to work system. So permit to work system looks at the various activities that the company does and those activities that are likely to cause harm and establish a permit system. So permit system is just it's a formal document that before the work starts must be completed, where you provide information about the work that will be done, and you look at the hazard that are likely to occur from this, and the mitigation that must be put in place, and the people who must validate it to make it authentic or give the green light for the work to be done. Unless all these have been done, the work cannot be done. It's a way, or it's a form of safe system of work. So it means before the work starts, once the permit has been completed and signed by all persons, it means that everybody is aware. It means whatever that must be done has been done. So you are sure the work will be done by while the risks had been managed. So that's the permit system of work. So there are different types of permit. We have what you call the general permit that can be issued for routine activities that are done in the organization every day. Because of the difficulty in getting it validated or preparing it every day, every company has its own procedure that explains how the permit work system works. So you can have a procedure that will tell you, okay, you have 7 days. The permit will be valid for 7 days. But every day before you start the work, all the signatories must validate and sign before the work starts. So you don't need to prepare a new one. It's the one permit, but it has 7 sessions that every day must be validated. So that is an example. You can also have the isolation and lockout system. This is the logout tag system. This is the very key, very, very important. So once you have any or possibility of people working close to an energized source, be it electric, be it mechanical, be it hydraulic, whatever it is. You should have a lockout tagout system where before you work on it, you must obtain the logout tagout permit or authorization before you do it. Safe work instructions for various work activities can be made available at the work areas. It's an example of a safe system of work. Vehicle management plans and safe method statement is key. So if you're going to do any work, you must prepare a method statement. This usually is done by technical people. They pick each step of the work, what kind of materials will be needed, what kind of tools will be needed, how are you going to do the work. When they are done, they give it to you, the HSE professional, and out of that, you deduce your job safety analysis. This is another example of system of work. So the permit, I think, has been explained extensively as you go down. Then let's go to the next page. So who can issue the permit? What should be specified in the permit? Very important, communicating the permit requirements. It's very key. This is very key. I mean, highlights on that. Most of the time, supervisors are very quick in doing their job. The safety officer prepare the permit and they bring it, and they don't even read what is inside. They just pick the pen and sign. They don't communicate the results or the information the permit to their and the subordinates, the workers, the team members. They don't also demand supervisor. You say the permit is ready, we are going to say where the permit, what is inside the permit. Because if you as a worker, you don't demand these things and you go ahead and work, then the question is that on what basis did you work? Did you follow what is in the permit or not? If you are a supervisor, you didn't auto communicate to your workers and they go and work, then the law will also deal with you. Why didn't you communicate this? All these things we are put in place to prevent life from being lost. You can't wait for life to be lost, then you ask questions. Why didn't you do that? Please, you must do the right thing by making sure workers are aware of what is inside this very important document before the work will start. It is advisable to explain what will happen after an emergency. This is also very key. The permit must contain such information as instruction to stop work and the instruction to leave the area untouched. A notice explaining that the permit system is in operation should also be displayed. Very, very key. Sometimes you might have what you call permit board, where you provide a copy of the permit posted there. So that is also very important that we must do. Next slide. So let's see the monitoring, inspection, and auditing. This is a very important step in the risk assessment process. So what do you mean by active monitoring? It means regular proactive measurement of performance against safety management standards and targets. Regular proactive measurement, very, very key. I think, Chief, you have jumped. Can you go back on page 19? Okay, so what is audit? It's a formal examination against a fixed standards by competent people who are independent of the area of work being audited. This is a very, very, very important exercise in ensuring that the risk assessment, ensuring that the safe system of work is achieving its intended purpose. Every year, it's important that you must have a system, a formal examination to confirm that you, as a company, whatever that have been put in place, your risk assessment, whatever have been put in place, your safe system of work is working as expected. And how will you do that? You can't audit your own system. Despite being a lead auditor, despite being an experienced practitioner in health and safety, you can't be your own player and referee at the same time. You must bring in a person who is independent from your work activity to come and audit you. So in audit, we start first by planning. So you must schedule a plan, or you must have a schedule for the audit. Then once you confirm the audit date, the auditor must come out with a plan that will tell the auditee and the people in the organization the areas you're going to audit, the audit criteria, what standard is he going to use to audit, most of the time we use the international standard that ISO 45001 and the company's own procedures. So that means prior to the audit, the company, the auditee must send some relevant document for the auditee to read, to abreast with the kind of operation that the company does. Not only that, you must also in the audit spell out the means of the language you are going to use, spell out the schedule of the audit program, opening meeting, hold an opening meeting, what method you are going to use to carry out the audit, what will be the objective for the audit, what will be the various timelines for the various people, the various departments you are going to audit. You must also hold a close-out meeting, then present your audit finding during the close-out meeting. During your opening meeting, you must give them how you are going to classify your findings, strong point or positive, improvement opportunities, weak point, minor non-conformance, non-conformance. You must clearly indicate all this during your opening meeting. Then during the close-out meeting, you print out these findings. Once you are done, you present the audit report to them. Then they will have to get back to you with what we call corrective actions. What are going to put in place to ensure that what findings that you have identified, they have resolved. That is the process of audit. It's a very, very important exercise that must be done. Independent. So let's see some things that we must check or put in place before the audit. Managers, supervisors, and safety representatives will have a role to play in the monitoring, inspection, and audit. In fact, let me explain this before. Inspection and audit are two different things on the same coin. Inspection is a form of monitoring, but that one it doesn't have a standard you are going to monitor against or check against. But auditing, you do auditing to monitor compliance against a standard or against a criteria. So that is one of the distinctions. Again, inspection is more of you can do the inspection. You don't need an independent person to come do the inspection. You, who is the manager of the health and safety management system, can carry out the inspection. But audit must always be an independent person from you. So these are some of the things that we must take note. Both inspection and audit are very key ingredients in checking that what we are doing is in line with the plan that we have established in our policy. So it's a very good system of checking. Let's see some of the things that we must have in place. We must have proper allocation of financial and staff resources, commitment from management advisors. We must also agree on inspection auditing procedures. We must have adequate training information for all persons involved. We must have a regular review of the organization's performance. Then monitoring. Monitoring can either be active or reactive. Active monitoring is the process of checking the day-to-day operations of the health and safety management system. It is the regular proactive measures of performance against its management standards and targets. It involves keeping an eye on what is going on and helping to deal with problems at the area. Regular monitoring should help to identify the strength and weakness of the system. Active monitoring includes methods such as safety inspections, safety tours from the workplace, and surveys. So monitoring is key. Once we monitor, we're able to keep whether we are in line with our key performance indicators. Once we monitor, so you can set up some monitoring tools that you can do to ensure that. Let's see the importance of keeping records when we carry out our monitoring activities. So examples of the types of records you should keep should include. Please, the next slide. I'm on the page 21. Okay, so apart from investigating incident and accident, much of reactive monitoring is about keeping and analyzing records. So one of the indicators of a good health and safety culture is quality and type of records kept by the organization. Examples of type of records can be training, can be the fire drills or drill report, can be alarm testing, can be electrical equipment testing, plant and equipment maintenance records or report, operations or processes, accident investigation report, radar report. Radar is reporting dangerous occurrences. It's a requirement in the law that you must report dangerous occurrences. Organization accident reports, sickness and absence reports, safety committee minutes, inspections, audits of safety system. All these are records that must be kept. And also, when records have been analyzed, they can demonstrate the company history of safety management, identify long-term trend, be used to plan maintenance or identify training needs, can be used as an evidence in case of litigation. It can also be used to measure the effectiveness of control measures, and can be used by manager to conduct regular reviews of the organization. So these are importance for us to keep records. Let's see some inspection. What is included in an inspection? What is included in an inspection of a system? An overall inspection of the health and safety management system does not necessarily have to cover all the matters in the checklist. Matters to be included could include checking that the safety policy is up to date and is available, the safety committee minutes are available, accident and ill health records are up to date and available, training records are up to date and available, first aid facilities are available and up to legal standard, control of substances associated to health records and safe data sheets are available, health surveillance records are available and up to date, the display screen equipment risk assessment is available if it's legally required in the country and up to date, manual handling, these are examples of specific risk assessment. If it's required in the country that you are operating, it must be available and up to date. And very important, disposal of hazardous waste. It is shown from the generation to disposal that you are keeping track to make sure that your waste do not end up in polluting the environment. Let's see the next slide, 23. Okay, so other checks also include workplace, lighting, temperature, ventilation, clean. In fact, when you come to Ghana here, our regulation for health and safety has a lot of sessions on the what we call welfare and hygiene. You can see that all these have been captured specifically in the Health and Safety Act in Ghana. We call it Factories, Office and Shop Act 1970 at 328. It gives specific requirement that employers must respect when it comes to lighting, temperature, ventilation, cleanliness, and all that. So let's take then examination, which apply only to equipment. This is when you are doing thorough inspection of equipment. You must periodically do a thorough examination of this equipment after manufacturer has produced and you have gone to buy it. And this examination must be done by a competent person. Usually, we outsource it to a technical or subcontracted outsourced technical companies to do that. Then auditing. An audit, I already explained extensively what an audit is about. So I won't talk much on that. Let's go to the next stage, the next 24. Carry out audit. Yes, the aim is of audit is to evaluate the ability. No, please, I'm on page 24. Yes, the aim of an audit is to evaluate the ability of organizations and manager to produce and implement a health and safety policy to control health and safety risks. It's also to evaluate the communication and consultation arrangement for involving organizations and employees. The aim of audit is to evaluate the training systems and competencies of the. So the checkpoints in carrying out audit are what is being mentioned here. You check all these. You check the health and safety risk control system. You check health and safety measures and procedures. You check the performance management system. You check the monitoring and inspection arrangement that have been put in place. You check the accident records and investigation system. And you check the compatibility of the organization's main management system. That's the purpose of audit. As I said, it's a very important exercise that must be done by a competent person, and that person must be free, must be independent of the organization's management system. So it goes ahead to tell us how the example of an difference between inspection and an audit, as have been earlier indicated. So let's see, the last is the health surveillance. Health surveillance is one of the things that you must check during the audit. It's very, very important that the organization must have a health surveillance program. People come and work, but you must be certified and you must be convinced that these people coming to work, they are medically fit to carry out the work, and that in case they leave the organization, they cannot attribute that because of some uncontrolled risks associated with the activity that they perform, they have attracted or they have contracted certain sicknesses and diseases that you, the company or the employer, can be held liable. So you must have a very good health surveillance system. Okay, so the main organization now actively promote health of their employees in addition to taking preventive and precautionary measures. Some employers provide advice and assistance on topics such as smoking, diet, and exercise. Others have also introduced general health screening, even if the employer is not required to do so. A program of health surveillance is required by law in certain circumstances, such as where substance hazardous to health or radiation are involved. I'm sure most countries require some level of health surveillance before the worker starts work. Let's see, what is it? Health surveillance involves a systematic monitoring. And the next page, 27. Yes. Health surveillance involves a systematic monitoring of the health of any worker who may be exposed to harmful substances or harmful work activities. The purpose of the surveillance is to identify adverse health effects or inadequate health and safety control. The types of surveillance: generally, there are two types of health-related surveillance at work: medical health screening and environmental monitoring. Medical health screening slows early detection of specific work-related illness. It enables employers to prevent ill health and evaluate the need for changes that reduces the risk of the disease. Various techniques for medical health screening are used, and include biological monitoring, testing of employees for harmful substances in their body, eyesight and hearing tests, lung capacity tests, chest x-rays, manual dexterity assessment, physical examination, and intake. So what happens is that you must have a procedure for your medical health screening, and inside this procedure you should show the modalities you are going to follow to carry out this exercise. Then what kind of examination? So if the person is coming to be a pre-employment, what kind of medical examination you want it to be carried out? The person is going to be an annual medical, that means the person has already been employed, is working annually. What kind of a medical examination he or she will have to do? Then if the person is also, for instance, based on the work the person does, there are certain medical examination. If you are not exposed to that risk, you don't need, for instance, somebody in an office environment doesn't need to do odometry, which involves checking the hearing ability of the person. Usually the worker on the field who is exposed to noisy areas. So all these things will be spelled out in this procedure, and it will serve as the guidelines in carrying out this surveillance. Another type is what you call the environmental monitoring, which we want to talk about. Can you go to the stage of environmental monitoring? All these steps is talking about the medical screening. So can you go to page? Environmental monitoring has not been talked about extensively. Okay, so I think for the purpose of our slide, the emphasis is on the medical surveillance. So let me talk one or two on it, then we can go to the next slide. So let's see why monitor employees' health. The main aim of monitoring the health of employees is to protect them from harm. Hello, please can you hear me? Hello? Hello, am I?
Is this to us? The class is listening, sir.
Hello, please can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So let's go to page 28. When to monitor employees' health. Employers must ensure that their employees are provided with health surveillance appropriate to the risks to their health and safety that have been identified by the risk assessment. The following criteria should be used to decide whether health surveillance should be introduced. There's identifiable disease or adverse health condition related to the work. Valid techniques are available to detect the disease or condition. There is a reasonable likelihood that the disease or condition may occur under the particular condition at work, and surveillance is likely to increase the protection of the health of the employees concerned. So these are the criteria that you can use to decide whether you need health surveillance or not. Then let's go to monitoring at different stages. Health surveillance can be done at different stages of an employee's employment, at recruitment or before the transfer to a job with health risks. It can also be done during work involving a risk to health and even after the exposure to health hazard has stopped. Surveillance can also help to predict whether someone is likely to be at risk from developing work-related disease from harmful substance use in the workplace. Let's go to page 29. Let's see biological monitoring. Biological monitoring, page 29. So biological monitoring is used to find out if substance is being absorbed into the body. The technique is typically used to monitor lead or pesticide levels in the blood. Result can suggest whether existing controls are adequate and can help to identify employees who are overexposed and need to be given additional protection or move from the job. Surveillance can help to identify insufficient controls of a harmful substance. For instance, where ventilation controls are inadequate. Ventilation is an example of a generic control. It's inadequate to deal with airborne lung allergens, such as those in wool processing workshop. But harmful substances, where harmful substances are in use, there must be a health surveillance program. This is required by law for asbestos, lead, and iodine radiation. For example, employees working in compressed air or diving operation must also receive health surveillance. Some important precautions. Employees should give their consent to participating in the program. This is very, very key. Very, very key. If you're going to do any type of examination, medical examination, you must see. That's why when you go to hospitals, proud to conducting the medical examination, they will give you a form to fill to consent. Even sometimes in the form, they will ask you if you are willing to disclose your result to your human resource or not. These are very, very important. It has some legal implication. Employees should also be given information about the possible consequences of the surveillance. For example, the possibility of discovering adverse effects. Supervisors or managers can be trained to recognize the symptoms of some conditions that may indicate health problem. The program must also be under the direction of a competent person. For example, an occupational health doctor or occupational hygienist. The information obtained from the program must remain confidential, but should be available to the individual employee at any time. Details should be passed on to third parties such as health executive, local authority, or court only with the written consent of the employee. Employees cannot be dismissed because they are at high risk of developing work-related disease unless there's a detailed and thorough medical assessment and that have been given a full explanation of what has happened, then there should be a system of quick referral for medical advice and treatment in the event that adverse effects are detected, so that treatment can be given at the earliest possible stage. So these are some of the important precautions we must take when we are carrying out this very important medical screening. Let's see page 30. Health surveillance records. Sickness records are an important source of information in health surveillance and can be an early indication that something is wrong in the workplace. The details included in health surveillance record are likely to be the name of the employee, the sex, the date of birth, and all the other details. The name of the competent person carrying out the health surveillance. More detailed record can be kept for at least 40 years from the date of the last entry. Sometimes somebody goes for medical or gets injured, you must return to work. How do you manage it? Managing an employee return to work after illness can help to create good relations with workers, reduce profit losses, and increase productivity. Organizations should record and monitor sickness absence, the reason for absence, and the time taken off. Managers or supervisors should keep in contact with the people on sick leave and consider arranging to visit workers who have been off for some time to discuss their progress and when they hope to return to work. When an employee is ready to return to work, managers should discuss the return and any circumstances or practices that could continue to have adverse effect on the person's condition. This should be based on the advice of a suitably qualified occupational health staff. Managers should ensure the employees return to work after long-term sickness absence are not subjected to excessive demands during their planned return. So all these things will be finalized or will be formalized in the medical fitness procedure and will serve as a guidelines in managing such situation. So let's see accident and ill health reporting, page 31. Recordings and reporting accident, ill health, and dangerous occurrences can help organizations to reduce accident and ill health in their own workplace and in others around the country. There are legal requirements to reporting some types of injury and accident. For example, when you come to Ghana, even when you record a high potential or a dangerous occurrence, the acts that I earlier mentioned, the Factories of a Shop Act, has a section that requires that you as the employer must report to them. The reason for reporting is that once you report, even though it's a dangerous occurrence, they can bring their experts' advice to help carry out investigation so that they can put in measures so that same or similar event that led to the high potential will not occur. It's a way of preventing the unexpected from occurring. Sometimes the act also requires that when there's an incident that resulted in the lost time, somebody staying away from work or loss of life, you must also report. So you must, as a health and safety professional, be familiar with the regulations in your country and at what type of incident might be reported to them. Don't keep it to them so yourself. Report to them so they can help you to carry out investigation. Why must we report and record accident and ill health? The principal objective I'm on page 32. The principal objective for the system should be to enable prompt remedial action to be taken. That's one objective. To prevent similar occurrence in the future. To ensure compliance with regulation. I've already talked about it. To comply with the company's own instructions. And also to determine or detect trend. And also assist in decision making, planning, and resource allocation. Failure to report and record ill health. Many accidents and incidents of ill health go unreported, and this can affect the health and safety performance of an organization as well as its compliance with the law. Because usually the regulation, they come out with publications every year to advise on the kind of activity that had a lot of incidents reported in the past, to serve as information for others to take decisions. So if you don't report it, at the end of the day, how are you going to access or provide vital information for other organizations or other persons to learn from. So it's very important we must report. Employees may be reluctant to report accident or ill health for a number of reasons. One of them will be they think that the accident incident is too trivial to report. Sometimes they will not report because they don't appreciate the benefit of reporting accident and ill health. They may also think that it's not related to ill health to work, worrying that reporting wastes their time. They may also fear reprimand by the manager or supervisor. They may believe that there's pressure from manager to keep down the number of reported incident, especially when there's a tie to performance. Managers want to work some number of years without an LTI, so if you report, you'll be the odd one out. You don't want to also admit errors or fear of appearing incompetent in the presence of the supervisors, so they keep it to themselves. Not want to fill in any forms. Sometimes the forms are very cumbersome, and they're worried that they will lose their pay or their job. However, we must encourage reporting of incidents and help us to have a good practice and legal compliance. How do we do that? By removing any fear of reprimand from employees, running appropriate training sessions, setting up reporting system, investigating all incident or an accident of ill health, taking remedial action, including accident and ill health in your safety meeting agendas, informing employees on the outcome of anything that has been reported. Let's see some types of major injuries that we must report. Any injury to a feature on page 33. Any injury to a feature other than fingers, thumbs, or toe. Any amputation, dislocation of the shoulder, loss of sight, a chemical or hot metal burn, an injury resulting from electric shock, and any other injury leading to hypothermia, requiring resuscitation, requiring admittance to hospital. All these are types of injuries that might be reported. Again, it is also dependent on what the regulation in the country is asking or demanding. Over 3-day injury. An over 3-day injury is one that is not a major injury but results in the injured person being off from work for more than 3 calendar days. This means 3 consecutive days, but does not include the day of the accident. Non-working days should be counted in the 3 consecutive days. So if it happened on weekend, Saturday, Sunday is also supposed to be counted. It is important to note that an accident includes physical violence to a person at work and should be reported if it results in death, major injury, or over 3-day injury. Dangerous occurrence. This is the regulation for dangerous occurrence. A dangerous occurrence is an occurrence arising out of or in connection with work and which is specified in the riddle. Examples of dangerous occurrence are collapse, overturning, or failure of a load-bearing part of any lift or hose, crane or derrick, and electrical short circuit or overload attended by a fire or explosion which results in the stoppage of the plant involved for more than 24 hours. These are examples of dangerous occurrence. Diseases, certain poison, some skin diseases, lung diseases, infections such as leptospira disease, other conditions such as occupational cancer. All these are classification and the diseases that the riddle requires that it might be reported. Reporting an incident involving a member of the public. An accident involving a member of the public that arises from or in connection with the work activity must also be reported to the incident contact center if the member of the public is killed or is taken to hospital directly from the accidents. So these are all guidelines that the riddle provides and reported. Who must make the report? The duty to report. I'm on page 35. The duty to report or notify accident, ill health, death, and dangerous occurrence falls upon a responsible person. That person may be the employer, that person may be the duty manager, that may be the self-employed person, that may be the owner of the premises, or the vehicle, the person in charge of the premises, or the process at the time of the accident. The supervisor may also be given the duty of responsible person to report the incident. Let's go to page 36. Employers on accident records say the employer must keep records of accident, ill health, and dangerous occurrence at work. And they can do this in several ways, such as using an amended accident book, keeping photocopies of completed forms. And so, because our course is UK based, they are providing the guidelines from UK, but in respective countries, you may also have your own records form that you can complete based on the regulations. So just keep note. And it contains information like the name of the person who was injured or ill, the date and time, location, and all other details that you can see on the screen. When then do we carry out the investigation for the accident? No one wants an accident to occur in their workplace, and responsible employers do everything possible to ensure that none occurs. For instance, by developing risk assessment, by having a safe system of work that we've talked about, by having a robot health surveillance program, by having a health and safety management system. All these are geared towards ensuring that accidents do not occur. But there's always a margin of error in everything. So when it occurs, we must carry out investigation. An accident investigation is an opportunity to find out what happened and to introduce changes aimed at preventing a similar accident from occurring. So let's see the next page. Why then do we have to investigate accidents? Page 38. So a detailed investigation of accident on them should be carried out for the following reasons. Accident and ill health can indicate that risk control measures have failed. So when you carry out a full investigation, it can reveal a weakness in the controls that need to be remedied. So that is one of the reasons why you must carry out incident investigation or accident investigation. Organizations should investigate all accident and incident, as the information gained can help to protect employees and others. Data obtained in the investigation can then be used to develop a safe system of work and a safety strategy to ensure compliance with legislation. To ensure an investigation will also reveal whether the company health and safety policy and procedure have also been followed. This is another reason. So one reason is that it helps us to see the weaknesses in the risk control that we put in place and come up with remedial action. Once we also carry out the investigation, also help us to see whether the health and safety policy and procedures have been followed by the workers, because these things have been developed for the workers to follow to make sure that work is done safely. Staff morale can also be damaged by an accident. An investigation followed by rapid implementation of corrective measures can also help to restore confidence and commitment, because it demonstrates the employer's determination to maintain high standards of health and safety at the workplace. Who should be involved in the investigation? Accident, I'm on page 38. Okay, so accidents should be investigated by people such as the organization safety officers and advisors. If there's a safety representative, a manager, and a supervisor on the job involved, you may be one of the people involved in drawing up the report. Employees who were involved in an accident or eyewitnesses may be reluctant to give as much information as they could fear of being blamed, including safety representatives and of employees. Safety in the organization, in the investigation team, can give employees confidence to cooperate fully. That is very good, because most of the time employees have some perception that managers impose things on them, and they, being managers with authority, they think they are not. So once you carry out the investigation, it don't involve the employees or their representatives in the investigation team. Whatever that comes out, they will think that they will not help to implement the corrective action, thereby the effectiveness of the investigation will not be complete. But once they are involved, then at the end of the day, they can be motivated and encouraged to ensure that mitigation measures or the corrective action that have been decided in the investigation report is really implemented to the fullest. So please, let's involve them. Some companies, in their procedure for incident investigation, they determine every incident, type of incident, the composition of the team. So for instance, if the incident results in fatality, LTI, whichever case, it's by force, you should have a representative of the employees part of the investigation team. Otherwise, you cannot carry out a very effective investigation. So please, let's take note of that as well. Let's go to page 39. So dealing with the accident, the first priority are to give first aid and make the immediate place safe. Someone should assess the scene of the accident to prevent further accident from occurring. So that's the first thing you must do. Then the next step is what you investigate. The first step of the investigation is to gather information. So I'm on page 39. You must gather the information by inspecting the area where it happened, noting the physical and environmental conditions. Step 2 is to carry out interview to the injured person if it's possible and the eyewitnesses. Step 3 is to analyze the information gathered and discuss the possible conclusions. Step 4 is to compile the written reports, and step 5 is to implement the recommendation. So this is basically the example of the discipline. I have an acronym that I want to use to explain this step. So if you have your pens and paper, get ready for this acronym that we can use to carry out what we call investigation. So if you are ready, are you ready? Hello?
Yes, we are ready. Carry on.
Okay, all right. So the first step is to gather information. I'll give you the acronym very soon. Gather information. You search for and establish your facts. You determine your immediate and underlying cause. Find the root cause and implement them. Determine correction and corrective actions. Then evaluate the effectiveness of the actions that you have closed. So in carrying out the interview, we have what we call the peace model. The peace model. So you see the step that we talk about say that you must carry out interview. So step 2 is to interview any witnesses, including an injured person if possible. So we have what we call the peace model. The P stands for plan the interview. You must plan the interview. Yeah, we are looking at what interview as soon as possible after the incident. But however, note that don't interrupt the medical care. As part of the plan, you must interview each person separately. Then do not allow witnesses to confer with each other prior to their interview. Otherwise, whatever information they will give you will be compromised. So that is the peace, the P in the peace model plan. Then after you plan for the interview, the next thing is what you must explain the objectives of the interview. Let the interviewee know the objective for carrying out the interview. Put the person at ease, reassure them that it is a fact-finding process. It is not to apportion blame, and ask open-ended questions. And do not make suggestions when he's saying something and it's not coming forth. Don't say something into his mouth. Allow him to land. Whatever you want to say, give him the time to let him speak it out. That is explain the objectives. That is the E. Then the A is an account for any inconsistency. You are going to interview a lot of eyewitnesses, so account for inconsistencies. Then close the interview by repeating the information that you receive. Repeat it to be sure that that is what he meant. Then the G stands for evaluate. So that is the acronym for what you call the interview process. We call it the peace model. So you carry out this, then you finally compile your reports And once you compile reports, you implement the recommendations. So let's see page 42. Page 42. Okay, so training. How do we then do training, instruction, information to improve the standard? Once you identify Engr, training is an essential part of health and safety management system. It prepares employees through the means of information, instruction, and practice to achieve the desired skill, knowledge, and competence. Training is very effective in reducing the likelihood of an injury because the employee is made to be aware of the hazard, aware of the risks, and aware of the controls involved in the work activity. Managers, supervisors, and safety reps are often in a position to influence the type and extent of the health and safety training provided for employees, and some are qualified to provide the training themselves. The next slide. What is training? Training can be described as the process of preparing someone to achieve a desired level of skill, knowledge, and competence. So I always say that competence means application of knowledge and skills at the right time. So if somebody says you are incompetent, it means you have the knowledge, but you couldn't apply it at the right time, or you don't have the knowledge and thereby you didn't apply it at the right time. So when you have the necessary knowledge through training and you're able to apply it when it is required, then you are competent. Why then do you have to provide training? When you provide training, it helps to reduce ill health in the workplace. It helps reduce accidents. It helps reduce costs associated with accident and insurance. It helps to increase productivity. It helps hazard to be identified in the workplace. Workers become more knowledgeable about the hazard. It helps to improve in the response of drills, emergency situation. Help us to work so that we can satisfy our customers and help the organization reputation also to be good. So these are some of the things. What are some of the responsibilities for training? Employers must provide information, instructions, and training for employees and people who may be affected by their business. Managers are usually accountable for this. They usually decide on the scope and the type of the training needed by the organization. Supervisors and safety representatives are in excellent position to influence or influence the provision of training. They can advise managers about the type. Please take note, training should not be something that just comes out of the blue moon. There should be some baseline for deciding which kind of training, and the baseline is what we call the training need assessment. You look at all the activity that you do. What are the likely hazards to occur from this hazard when performing this hazard? And out of this hazard, determine the training needed. Your training must directly address the hazards associated with the work activity that you do. So if I go to a company and the company is into lifting activities, and in their training for the year, they don't have any training on the lifting and rigging or equipment operation, then on what basis did they do the training? So the training is an action to make sure that the hazard that you identify from the activities, the workers are aware of the hazard and the control. So that is the linkage that we must establish. Not only the hazard, but also the emergency situations. So if you're a company and your activity presents some emergency situations like fire, like spill, like injuries, and you don't do training for first aid, firefighting, and spill, then how are you addressing these emergency situations? So the hazards associated with the work activity, the emergencies likely to occur, and of course the legal requirements in your country must serve the basis for which you determine the training topics or the training that you have to conduct. New employees, page 44. So new employees, page 44. New employees should be given, training should be given to new employees after someone has been appointed and when employees are exposed to new or increased training. The current knowledge, skills, and experience of employees will also influence the type and level of training that we have to provide for them. Training is very important in achieving competence. Remember, I explained what competence means. Training is very important in achieving competence, and refresher training has an important role to play in maintaining that competence. Competence is your ability to apply your knowledge and skills at the right time. Instructions and training. Provision of instructions and training is a continuous process, not a one-time exercise. So provision is made for new employees, existing employees, and employees with new responsibilities. All these categories of people must receive the appropriate training so they can do their job very well and eventually achieve the desired competence that is needed for their job. The type of training, when deciding what kind of training should be given, you must first decide whether training is the best or most appropriate way of reducing the risks. Remember, training is also an example of a safe system of work. Training is also an example of what we call the administrative control. So it is not the most effective control, but at least it's better than PPE. So let's make sure we do it very well so we can achieve the desired outcome. So that's why we must design the program, we must evaluate and monitor and review the training needs to make sure that it's always suitable and adequate to achieve the intended outcome. There are so many methods of training. I'm on page 45. There are so many methods of training. You can do one-on-one training. You can do learning from an experienced person at work. You can do mentoring. You can do formal training by a qualified trainer. You can do role play. You can do report writing, study and discussion groups. These are distance learning calls, case studies. These are all various types of training modules that we can use. They are very important. You must evaluate the effectiveness of the training. So how do you evaluate the training? You can have the pre-training, you can have the instant and the post. Pre-training means before you even start the training, know the levels that the trainees have about the subject. So you do the initial assessment to see their level. Then based on the outcome, you know that, okay, I have 20 participants, about 50% of them didn't show knowledge about this topic that I'm going to talk about. So you know how you go about your training. Then that is the initial. Then the instant means immediately they have finished the training, you must evaluate them in the form of examination or a test. That is the instant evaluation. But you don't end there. You must do what's called post-evaluation. That is 6 months later, 3 months later, when they are doing the job, you observe them to see that all the information that you provided them during the training, are they putting it into practice? That is what we call the post-evaluation. So these are the 3 forms of evaluation that the training must have. And once you do that, you can know that whether there's a need to modify your training material, the method, or the mode of the training so that you can achieve the intended outcome. All right, so I think at this juncture, I will end with the common types of, I'm on page 46, common types of health and safety information that can be distributed at the workplace. Health and safety policy. Remember, all these things must also come from what you call your communication procedure. You should have a procedure that will show what kind of information you must disseminate internally, externally, by which means, by which mode, and all that, and the frequency. And one of the typical information that you must communicate according to your communication procedure with health and safety policy. Is it through induction only? Is it through boss meeting? Is it through internal training? Should it be printed and posted? These are all means of information, communicating this information. Safety responsibilities, how is it going to be done? Safe system of work, hazard at the workplace, controls in place to protect the employee, changes. All these are vital information that we must provide. Of course, induction course must also contain some vital information, which you can see over here, the fire safety, emergency procedure, where to get health and safety information, accident and hazard reporting procedure, organization health and safety policy, first aid facilities, and employer-employee communication. Then finally, I will end the local requirement. Under the Health and Safety Act, 1974. Employers must provide information, employer must provide instruction, employer must provide training and supervision that will ensure, so far as reasonably practicable, the health and safety of employees at work. And several other pieces of legislation also require specific requirement of training employees. For example, under the control of substance and under the health, you must train your employees on how to work with this other substance and the rest. So as you can see from here. So at this juncture, I will end my presentation by concluding with this remark. Training is very important, but training contribution in preventing accidents is only 50%. We need something more. What else do we need? We need skills. So that's why we must try and let our workers have hands-on experience, give them a lot of practical exposure, and try to retain workers who have experience. Once the person is skillful, it can help to reduce accident. Then finally, they will also, in addition, need attitude. Attitude is when they have received information through training and other means. Will they do it even when nobody's watching them? Once we have that, in addition to their skills and the knowledge, I'm sure that the workers will always work without any accident. Thank you very much.
Mamas, over to you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Evans, for the presentation. That was a great one. So we'll allow for questions. I can see first question on the chat. Why do safety officers always I'm coming getting this too. Okay, why do safety officers always look for who to blame when there is an accident? So somebody's question, please.
I don't know on what basis the person is saying, but it's not a good practice. Any safety officer who always look for people to blame when accident happen, I'm sure maybe probably the maturity is not as expected. It can also be that he's doing this because whenever the accident happens, his top management will want to blame this agency. So he also wants to look for somebody to blame. Such an environment, it shows that the safety culture is very low. Whenever accident happens, it is not a person that we must focus on. There may be, and whenever accident happens, two things are involved, either organizational factors or human factors. Most of the time, the organizational factors are ignored because they may link the failure to the company, and the management don't want to look or don't want to accept that they are at fault. But any company that has a very strong safety culture will open themselves up if management realize that it is the organizational factors that cause the accident. They will accept it good faith and work on it. But most of the time, the focus is on human failures, and the human failure will be, okay, the worker violated, so you crack the rib. You crack the rib, you sack the person, you suspend the person, but the failure will still be there, and within a matter of time, it will occur. So any company that the safety officer is looking for someone to apportion blame, that culture of the company is not there. They must work on training, retraining, building, and worker participation, consultation. A lot of things must go on. Management, commitment, accountability system, behavior of workers must be worked on so that the culture can improve. Once the culture is very good, no safety officer will look for somebody to blame, or no top management will look for somebody to blame. So that's what I can say about it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Evans, for the answer. Any more questions? Any more questions? You can lift up your hand. Okay, then we'll be bringing this session to an end. We'll call on our governor to respond to today's class, then we'll bring it to an end. Doctor, I've seen you. Do you have something for us?
Thank you
I
so
didn't
much.
notice you.
No, I'm always there off and on anyway.
Yeah, I've been admitting you, but currently I saw that all the leaders were gone. I was left alone, so I just noticed your name.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yes, on behalf of the international team, I want to appreciate Gina Evans for that wonderful presentation. It's very apt. You know, that is what makes this very program a master class. I'm talking to the student now because you have people who are safety managers from various industries talking to you, telling you, not speaking theories and speaking grammar, you know. So we don't want you to enter the industry or graduate out to the labor market, you start scratching your head. So you should be able to know what you can do, how to do it, and how to go about it. And the biggest picture about the whole thing is that you have a bigger institution that is ready to give you opportunity, ready to give you an umbrella, a platform to function and also to be proud as a safety professional. So at this point, I want to thank everyone for participation and for the candidates and also for our professionals who are registered for various levels in terms of managerial course, supervisory, and the officers course. I guess we are learning and unlearning. You know, we are all learning and unlearning, and learning continues. And for the new scholarship scheme that have opportunity to join the Masterclass Series is an opportunity for you to go and educate others, educate your roommate, classmates, coursemates, schoolmates, and students that are within your neighborhood and also within your families for them to take advantage of this great learning opportunity. It may only come but this once. Nobody knows if we're going to release another version. So it's a big open door for us. Now, I want to give a little announcement. You know, for many of the, especially the scholarship students, because these are special specialists in this very program, and we want to make sure that we do our best to make sure that you all succeed and you all smile at the end of the day. So in the same line, kindly communicate to your friends and colleagues that have registered, those who have not been participating in all the classes, or those who are off and on, to be serious, to also try to go through the recorded versions if they have not been missing class,